So this is Sir Haris Bhatt, and you are seeing my YouTube channel Learn Accounting with Sir Haris. Today we are going to solve the question from AS Accounting, and the chapter is basically errors and suspense. In AS Accounting, in this chapter, error and suspense, we are finding lots of questions now in the paper currently, which does not require you to pass rectifying entries and preparing suspense account. Rather, they basically examiner require you to prepare corrected profit and preparation of corrected statement of financial position, means corrected balance sheet. You have to prepare corrected statement of financial position after finding the corrected profit. So as in this question, the statement of financial position given is basically prepared in the wrong way, or there are some mistakes in the statement of financial position. So we have to correct those mistakes, and we have to prepare the statement of financial position again. So Jason prepared the following statement of financial position, which contained errors. Obviously, non-current assets and depreciation is given, then current assets are given. If you just look at the current assets, inventory, trade receivable, and other payable. Other payable can never come in the current asset because it's a current liability. But we have wrongly recorded it under the heading of current asset. Same is the case with bank overdraft. It is a current liability, but it has been recorded in the under the heading of current asset. Capital opening balance, profit less drawings, bank loan is given. Current liabilities, provision for doubtful debts. Provision for doubtful debts is not shown under the heading of current liability. Rather, it is a contra asset account. Contra asset account means that provision for doubtful debt is always subtracted from trade receivables. Provision is created at the end of the year for the expected doubtful debts, and that amount is supposed to be subtracted from the trade receivables under the heading of current assets. Then other receivables are given, that is also current asset 490. It is written wrongly in current liabilities, and then trade payables are fine. In addition to some items being recorded in the incorrect sections of the statement of financial position, the following errors have also been discovered. In spite of that, कि कुछ चीजें हमने गलत सेक्शन में लिख दी हैं स्टेटमेंट ऑफ फाइनेंशियल पोजीशन की, कुछ एरर्स और भी हैं which has been discovered. Number one, closing inventory had been overvalued by 510. So we have recorded closing inventory more than its actual amount. So our recorded closing inventory has been overvalued by 510. So what is the entry to correct the closing inventory? That is going to be cost of sales is going to be debited by 510, and closing inventory will be credited by 510. Sir, how come? Let me explain you. Closing inventory is overvalued means that it has been recorded more than its actual amount. So we used to record, we need to adjust the closing inventory. So 510 will be subtracted from closing inventory over here. 510 will be subtracted from this closing inventory. But the same 510 has been overvalued when you have prepared the statement of profit and loss. So when you have prepared the income statement, you have recorded closing inventory 510 more than its actual amount, and that is the reason that it will affect profit. That profit calculation is wrong. So what we have to do, that because closing inventory which comes in cost of sales is recorded more than 510, it means that closing inventory has been subtracted more from cost of sales by 510. It means that cost of sales has decreased. So we have to increase cost of sales. So that's why I have debited cost of sales, because cost of sales needs to be increased by 510. And the other part is the closing inventory, which is current asset, that will be credited because we need to decrease closing inventory, decrease in asset credit by 510. So the entry is going to be cost of sales debit and closing inventory credit. Next part is the balance of the rent receivable account debit 220 had been included in other payables in the statement of financial position. That is quite simple. Like see that we are supposed to record rent receivable in the balance sheet as current asset with an amount of 220. But instead of writing the rent receivable, we have recorded it wrongly in other payable account as 220. So that is quite simple, that other payable is going to be debited with 220, or you have to subtract that amount of 220 from other payable, then rent receivable is going to be debited by 220 and suspense is going to be credited with the total amount, which is 440. Although this question does not require you to prepare the rectifying entries, but I just want to pass the rectifying entry to make you clear the concept more easily. Why? Because I want you to be very sure about rectifying entries. So let's discuss it again, that part. Rent receivable account debit 220. It means that I have to debit rent receivable. So in the correct entry, I have debited rent receivable 220, which is a current asset. Instead of debiting 220 rent receivable, I have included it in other payables in the balance sheet. Other payables means I have recorded in current liability. Other payables is a liability, and liability is always having a credit balance. Now, other payable is wrongly credited, is debited, or you can say that you have to subtract that amount from other payables, and you have to add 220 in rent receivable account actually. And suspense is going to be correct. But the question does not require you to pass the rectifying entry. Question require you to adjust the statement of financial position. मैंने फिर भी pass कर दी just for the understanding purpose. Next, the balance of the drawings account had been understated by 580. It's very simple. Drawings has been recorded less by 580. So drawings हमेशा क्या होती हैं? Drawings are always debited. So I will debit drawings by 580 and suspense is going to be credit. Again, the entry is not required, but I am passing the entry just for the understanding purpose that you should be able to know the entry also. Third point, depreciation at 20% per annum had been charged using the straight line method instead of the reducing balance method at 20% per annum. So that is basically the most difficult point of the question. Let's go back. This 31,000 depreciation on non-current asset where the cost is 65,000 and the depreciation is 31,000, which is subtracted to get net book value 34,000. The point number 3 stated that depreciation had been charged by straight line method at the rate of 20%, which is wrong. We should charge depreciation at the rate instead of the reducing balance method at 20% per annum. यानी हमने 20% डेप्रिसिएशन चार्ज कर दी है स्ट्रेट लाइन मेथड से, जबकि हमने डेप्रिसिएशन चार्ज करनी थी 20% रिड्यूसिंग बैलेंस मेथड से, राइट? इसका मतलब कि जो ये डेप्रिसिएशन की अमाउंट है, कॉस्ट तो ठीक है, लेकिन दिस डेप्रिसिएशन अमाउंट इज रॉन्ग बिकॉज वी हैव कैलकुलेटेड द डेप्रिसिएशन under straight line method on 65,000 at the rate of 20%. Like I can write that way, Hadi ke I have calculated depreciation at cost. Straight line method means that you have to calculate depreciation on the original cost of the asset, which is given in the question 65,000. And I have calculated depreciation at the rate of 20% on the cost, which basically comes 13,000. Now, I have added 13,000 in this amount of 31,000, which is wrong. Because the examiner asked us that you have calculated depreciation and added depreciation in the provision for depreciation account by charging depreciation under straight line method on the cost price, original cost of the asset at the rate of 20%, which comes 13,000, which is wrong because I have to calculate depreciation under reducing balance method, not under straight line method. So the next part, which is for the reducing balance method, that I will do after reading the requirement of the question. So let's see. The requirement of the question is calculate the revised profit for the year and then prepare the corrected statement of financial position also. So let's first do this part and then we can prepare the corrected balance sheet also. Now, it means that before that depreciation, before the recording of this depreciation of 13,000, the cost was again 65,000, but the depreciation was how much? It was in the previous year before charging depreciation 31,000 minus 13,000, it would have been 18,000. So the provision for depreciation was 18,000 before charging depreciation on non-current asset for the current year. I repeat again, the cost of the asset is 65,000. We have charged depreciation on 65,000 at the rate of 20%, which is 13,000. Total depreciation is 31,000, including the current year depreciation of 13,000. So before charging depreciation, what was the cost? 65,000. And what was the depreciation which has come from the previous year? That was 18,000. मतलब पिछले सालों में आपके एसेट की कॉस्ट 65,000 थी और इस पर डेप्रिसिएशन हुई थी कितनी? 18,000. हमने इसमें स्ट्रेट लाइन मेथड से 13,000 चार्ज कर दिया, which is wrong, because the examiner says that the depreciation should have been charged not under straight line method at the rate of 20%. It should have been charged under reducing balance method at the rate of 20%. So let's move back. Now what I will do? 13,000 is wrong. What should have been the correct amount? The correct amount needs to be calculated that way, that first I will subtract 65,000 minus 18,000, because I should know the book value of the asset, because you know that in reducing balance method, we have to subtract depreciation, right? First from the cost, and then we are supposed to calculate the depreciation for the current year. So let's see, 65,000 minus 18,000, the amount is 47,000, and the 20% of this should have been charged. 20% of 47,000, how much it is going to be? 47,000.
9,400.
9,400.
ठीक है?
सर इसके अंदर हम ऐसे नहीं कर सकते कि 34,000 के अंदर हम ऐड कर दें 13,000 को?
नहीं नहीं नहीं, ऐसे नहीं कर सकते, क्योंकि उसकी वजह बताता हूं अभी आपको कि क्यों. देखें, हमने डेप्रिसिएशन रिकॉर्ड की हुई है इस वक्त कितनी? 13,000. हमने अपने एक्सपेंसेस में भी 13,000 लिखी है डेप्रिसिएशन, एंड प्रोविजन फॉर डेप्रिसिएशन में वी हैव एडेड 13,000, which is wrong. Depreciation in the statement of profit and loss to calculate profit, it should have been 9,400 rather than 13,000. Same is the case in 18,000. We should not add 13,000. We should have added 9,400 to find the correct value of the total provision for depreciation to be subtracted from the cost of the non-current asset in the statement of financial position or in the balance sheet. So both things are wrong. So in order to correct both the things, profit and the balance sheet, we have to go for all this work. All this working, we have to do that, all this working. So now let's start the solution of the question. First, I want to know the corrected profit. So we need to find that what is the profit currently. So the profit, which is basically incorrect profit for the year, is 11,270, which is incorrect actually. So let's start solving that. I will write here. Incorrect profit is going to be how much? Again, let me check it out. That is 11,270. I will write here because I need to correct the profit. That is 11,270. So how we are going to correct the profit? We know that easily. Let me explain you again. That effect on profit, how we are going to go for the effect on profit. If any expense or income account is going to be debit, the profit is going to be decrease. Any expense or income account is going to be debit, profit is going to decrease. Same is the case if any expense or income account or any account which comes in the profit and loss, if it is going to be credit, the profit is going to be increase because of that. आप ये कह सकते हैं कि कोई भी प्रॉफिट एंड लॉस अकाउंट का आइटम अगर रेक्टिफाई एंट्री में क्या हो रहा है बेटा, डेबिट हो रहा है तो उससे प्रॉफिट क्या हो जाएगा, डिक्रीज कर जाएगा। और अगर कोई भी इनकम या एक्सपेंस अकाउंट का आइटम रेक्टिफाई एंट्री में क्रेडिट हो रहा है तो उससे प्रॉफिट क्या हो जाएगा, इंक्रीज कर जाएगा। इंक्रीज करने का मतलब बेटा बढ़ जाएगा। यू विल ऐड इट अप। ओके, so now let's do that. The first entry is cost of sale to closing inventory. So cost of sales is debited, so we have to decrease the closing inventory. तो आप यहाँ पे you can write closing inventory over value जो आपने की थी, तो आपको यहाँ पे cost of sales debit हो रही है. It is an item of the income statement. You need to subtract that. So I will write here that is 510 is supposed to be subtracted. Spelling has gone wrong, no matter of over value. Then rent receivable, other payable that will not affect the what should I say, the profit. Why, sir? Let me explain you this also. The examiner has stated that closing inventory has value, but the problem is this, that the rent receivable debit balance has been recorded in other payable only in the statement of financial position. It means that that error has not occurred in the calculation of profit. मतलब प्रॉफिट के वक्त प्रॉफिट की कैलकुलेशन में ये ठीक किया गया है, प्रॉफिट की कैलकुलेशन में ये गलत नहीं है, इसलिए इसका इफेक्ट प्रॉफिट पर नहीं जाएगा। इसी तरह ड्राइंग्स अकाउंट हैड बीन अंडरकास्ट बाय 500 ड्राइंग टू सस्पेंस, ये भी नहीं आएगा क्योंकि ड्राइंग्स स्टेटमेंट ऑफ फाइनेंशियल पोजीशन में आता है, ड्राइंग्स का भी प्रॉफिट पर कोई इफेक्ट नहीं होगा। डेप्रिसिएशन का इफेक्ट होना है असल में, और वो ही हम असल डिस्कस करने जा रहे हैं। और वो क्या होगा, आपने प्रॉफिट में से डेप्रिसिएशन माइनस की बेटा कितनी, यू हैव टू सब्ट्रैक्टेड 13,000। instead of 13,000 you should have subtracted 9,400 which basically comes from the reducing balance method. So what you will do, इसको हम एडजस्ट करेंगे, depreciation overcharged which you have charged more, that is going to be 13,000 minus 9,400. You can do that way also. You will subtract, add 13,000 and subtract 9,400. That will also go. That will also work for you because you have taken depreciation 9,400. You have taken depreciation 13,000. Rather, you have to subtract 9,400 to find the corrected profit. 13,000 will be added and 9,400 will be subtracted, or the difference of these two will be added to find the corrected profit. So what is the amount now of the corrected profit? Please tell me. What is the amount of corrected profit? Yes, please. What is the amount of
14360.
14360 is the amount of corrected profit. So we are basically done with this. Now, corrected profit has been found. Now I have to prepare the statement of financial position. The statement of financial position is already been done over here, but that is basically wrong. So let me prepare it again for you. So let's prepare the statement of financial position or the corrected balance sheet, because the previous balance sheet is not correct actually. So here comes the dollar sign, and I will start it with the non-current assets. And I know that non-current assets are already, I have the value of non-current assets, that is 65,000. That is the cost. Subtract less depreciation, less provision for depreciation. That is how much I will write in provision for depreciation, my dear. 18,000 plus 9,400, because in 18,000 I have added wrongly. What amount I have added? 13,000. And we have recorded 18,000 plus 13,000. We have subtracted 31,000. 18 plus 13, 31,000, which is wrong. Because in 18,000, which is the previous year depreciation, total depreciation from the last year, current year depreciation will be added, which is 9,400 under reducing balance method. And both total of these two will be subtracted from the non-current asset. So how much it will come? That is going to be 27,400. So what is the amount of net non-current assets? 65,000 minus 27,400. How much it will come?
So 37,000.
37,600.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now I am going to calculate current assets. So in current assets, we know that we used to write the closing inventory, then we write trade receivable, then we write other receivables, then we write current assets, cash and cash equivalent. If given in the question, let me check. It is not given currently. So what inventory will I will write? See, the value of inventory is 17390. But we know that the inventory has been overvalued by 510. So I have to subtract. I have to subtract 17390 minus 510 because that has been overvalued. So what is the amount we will get for the correct value of inventory? That is 17390 minus 510.
Sir, 16880.
It will come 16880. Now let's talk about the trade receivables. Trade receivables are given in the question 14,800. That's fine. There is no bad debts. There is no provision, but provision for doubtful debt is written in the section of current liability, which is wrong because provision for doubtful debts should be subtracted from the trade receivable in the statement of financial position rather than writing it as a current liability. चाहे current liability ही होती है, लेकिन contra asset account. So 14,800 minus 480 we will do. I will write here 14,800 minus 480 because that is written on the wrong side. So what is the amount of net trade receivable or
14320?
14320, correct amount of trade receivable. Then I am going to write the other receivables. So other receivables is not written over here because we have written wrongly in the current liability section, which is 490. Secondly, another thing that other receivable will come in the current asset section of the statement of financial position, not with 490 because some other rent receivable should also be a part of that with 220, which is not recorded because unfortunately the rent receivable, which is basically an other receivable, an asset, has been recorded added in other payable account. तो मुझे अदर पेबल में से माइनस भी करना है और रेंट रिसीवेबल में ऐड भी करना है, तो मुझे ये अमाउंट 220 अदर रिसीवेबल में ऐड करके करंट एसेट्स में लिखनी पड़ेगी 220. तो अदर रिसीवेबल्स 490 के मैं इसमें ऐड करूंगा 490 प्लस 220, but it will come 490 plus 220
710.
710. Now I will go with the total of the current assets. I will write the total in the next column and then I will go for the answer of the total assets, which is given over here. So let me go for the total 16880. Well, you have to go for the total of the current assets 16880 minus plus 14320 plus 710.
Sir, 31910.
31910, and then you can find the total liabilities. Oh, liabilities means total assets, current assets and non-current assets. What is the amount of current assets? You can total assets. You can tell me.
Sir, 69510.
69510. 69510, and the total should come. The total equity and liabilities should also be equal to 69510 if our question is correct. If it is going to be wrong, then obviously it will not come equal. Then we can see that if there is any problem, we will try to find it out. So let's see what is the amount of capital. The opening balance of capital is 56950. I will write here. Opening balance is 56950. Add profit. I will add profit, which is the corrected profit, not the previous one, 11270, which was wrong. The corrected profit is 14360. So I will add the corrected profit over here, 14360, and drawings will be subtracted, obviously. And drawings are 18450, but 18450, but there are some more drawings which has been understated by 580. So I have to add 580 in the drawings account, and I have passed the entry for that also. The drawings are debited, suspense credit. Drawings are always debited, but 580 needs to be added in the amount of drawings, which is 18450. So I will show that also over here. 18450 plus 580. So what is the amount now for drawings? After adding 580, which is basically the drawings has been understated by 580. So what is the amount now? 18450 plus 580 is 19030, if I'm not wrong. And you will find the answer in the next column, capital add profit less drawings. Then comes our heading of non-current liabilities in the balance sheet. But I think in this question, no non-current liability is given in the question. Let me check it out. No, it is given. Bank loan is given, but bank loan repayable March 2021. So let's see. Because we are preparing the statement of financial position at 31st December 2020, and the bank loan is supposed to be paid in March 2021 after 3 months. So this bank loan will not be recorded in the non-current liability section. It will come in the current liability section because that is recorded wrongly in non-current liability. Sir, why? बेटा, non-current liability is supposed to be paid after 1 year. लोन लिया हो 5 साल के लिए, 6 साल के लिए. ये तो लोन जो है आपने पे करना है कब? मार्च 2021 में, 3 महीने बाद. So it should be shown as current liability rather than non-current liability. So there is no non-current liability in this question. So I will write the current liability section now. And in that section, although we used to write first trade payables, but I'm going to write the bank loan so that I should not miss that, or there should not be anything wrong for that. So bank loan is basically 4,900, which will come in the current liability because it is supposed to be paid in the next 3 months, less than 1 year. So what is the profit amount? If the drawings amount is correct, what is the profit at the end? Capital at the end?
Sir,
Five-
52280.
52280 means 56950 plus 14360 minus 19030. That is 52280, and bank loan is 4900. Now trade payables I have to write, that is 11360. There is no change in trade payables because no entry is going to affect the trade payables. So trade payables will remain the same, 11360. I will write here. Sorry, I should have written it in the inner column first. Let me make you clear that. Because bank loan is now a current liability, so I have to write it in the inner column rather than in the next column, and then total of the current liability will move forward in the last column. So trade payable is 11360. Then comes the other payable. Now let's see. We don't find other payable over here. Oh my God, because the other payables are written in the current asset section wrongly, and that is 700. Secondly, we have other payables, which is a current liability, and the amount is 700. Secondly, we have added 220, which should have been added in rent receivable. हमने उसे अदर पेबल में 220 ऐड कर दिया था, इसलिए आपने अदर पेबल को डेबिट किया. लायबिलिटी डिक्रीज करनी पड़ेगी आपको. This 220 needs to be subtracted from the other payable amount, which is 700. So I will write here that the other payables are 700, but minus 220, which is wrongly added in the other payable, which is added in the other receivables already. 220 I have added in other receivables because that needs to be a part of the other receivables. ये part other receivables का था. ये हमारा part जो है वो that was not a part of the that was not a part of the, what should I say, that was not the part of the other receivables. Okay, so let's go for the next part. Next is going to be I have to add this up now. This is equity and liability section. And now I
Sir,
have
other payables is 480.
480. 480. Okay. 480. And now I will go for the total of other payables, which I will write in the next column. Current assets, equity and liability section, current liabilities. And one more thing will come over here, and that is going to be our, what is? Yes, that is bank overdraft. The bank overdraft will also come over here because bank overdraft is written, if you just look at the question, it is written in current assets, 490, which is a current liability actually. So it needs to be added in, written in the current liability section of 490. And now I can write the total current liabilities in the next column to find the total equity and liabilities, which should be 69510. So what is the total of current liabilities? 4900 plus 11360 plus 480 or plus 490.
Sir, 17230.
17230. So this is how we are done with this question, and we have prepared the statement of financial position, and both the sides are equal. How can we do this black? I have done something wrong. Can you please tell me? This I have basically used fill with color. What should I do? Oh, okay. Okay, we are done with this question. You can easily find it out now that we have solved this part. If you have any problem, you can ask me now. This is the question we have done, and I will recommend you to solve one of the question. You can do it at home, and that is that question is that is May June 11 22. The question which has come in May June 11 23. Sorry, this is the question. You can do this question at home. May June 11 23. This question May June 11 23. You can solve at home, and then I will move forward again for the next questions. This is not that difficult, but if you have any problem, you can ask me. That's not a big issue. I mean, if you find any point or finding any difficulty, you can ask me any problem. So, okay, and thank you very much. Allah Hafiz.